Welcome to Mission Evolution Radio Show with Gwilda Wiyaka, bringing together today's leading experts to uncover ever-deepening spiritual truths and the latest scientific developments in support of the evolution of humankind. For more information on Mission Evolution Radio with Gwilda Wiyaka, visit www.missionevolution.org. And now, here's the host of Mission Evolution, Miss Gwilda Wiyaka.
Numerology's history stretches back to ancient Egypt, making it a very old form. Also practiced by early Romans and found in the history of India, numerology boasts a rich and fascinating history. But does it have anything to offer the people of today? Mission Evolution Radio TV show is coming to you around the world on the X Zone TV channel, xztv.ca. With us this hour to explore the divinational powers of numerology is Suzan Owens. Suzan is an established numerologist, intuitive, and author of Know Your Superpowers, Know Your Future. She began studying numerology over 30 years ago and was fascinated with the synchronicity, guidance, and growth the study offered. Her website, wisdomofnumerology.com. Suzan, thank you so much for joining us on Mission Evolution.
Oh, thanks, Gwilda. I'm just so excited to be here. It's always fun
Yeah.
to talk about numerology, always.
Well, it's not a form that I'm overly familiar with, so you'll be teaching me too. So,
Okay.
what began your interest in numerology?
Really just a book. Somebody gave me a book and I read it and I went, well, that's interesting. And then the more I got into it, the more books I bought, the more research I did, and the more it just fit into my life. Everything made sense. I've always been in the metaphysical studies. I've done astrology and I've done a few other things, but it was numerology that really rang my bells, really hit me that this is how I can run my life, basically, from the energy and the vibration of numbers. It just made sense.
So, where did you study?
On my own. I
Okay.
had found a couple of other authors that were published, and then I just kept reading. I've got over, I don't know, probably 150 books on numerology, and I keep buying more, and I study online and just and my own life too. I'm astounded at how much numerology makes sense in my life. Like, for instance, this is 2025. We'll get into this more, but 2025 is a 9-year, and numerology runs on a 9-year cycle. So this is our last year of the 9-year cycle. So when you think about the last year, the last things, it's completion year. It's a time for letting go, forgiveness, compassion, and understanding, and really releasing all those things of the past 9 years that you don't want to take into the beginning of another cycle next year, 2026. 2 plus 2 plus 5 is a 9. So that's how we get the 9-year.
So, give us a little bit of the history of numerology.
Well, like you said, it's an ancient, not ancient communication wisdom, and it's really influenced people throughout the years. And like you said, what's it got for us today? And I keep thinking, gosh, I wish I could time travel. I'd love to go back in the early days and really pick up some of that information that they studied and how they viewed numerology, because I'm getting new things all the time with regards to where is it going to go in my future? How does this fit in what's happening in the world, what's happening in my life, and everyone's life, really, because we all the numbers are different. Everybody has a different number. Everybody's different from everyone else. And yet you and I share the same superpower, or life path, I call it. You're a 3, I'm a 3. We're communicators. We love to talk. We love to interexchange information, and we're compassionate, understanding, very creative. So it's
So,
not a surprise that we found each other.
so you asked me for my birthday yesterday when we were
Oh.
doing the film check,
Mhm.
and is that where you're getting the information that you're sharing now?
Right. There's 2 pieces of information that we gather to get our information from numerology. The first is our birth date. That is our life path, or our superpowers, I call them. It's what the information, the gifts, the the understandings of things that we know and what we bring into in this lifetime, it comes from our birth date. Okay. And then the other piece of information is the name on our birth certificate, because that's who we came in to be, that name. And you can change your name all you want throughout your life. I have. And it all that does is bring different energy into what's happening in your life. It does not change what your destiny is, because that's what we get out of your name on your birth certificate is your destiny or your life purpose.
So if a person, like you say, changes their name, or women get married and they take on their husband's name, does it have any impact? Even though I know it's not going to change what they came in with, but does that have an impact?
It absolutely does. And I think, and I believe timing is important too, because my name Owens is actually a 22-4. Now that's a master number. And we don't always talk about that. We don't always have time to talk about it. But a master number is a double digit, 112233. And it's a higher vibration, and spiritual number brings in some higher influence to, say, for instance, a 4, because 22 would reduce down would be a 4. 2 plus 2 is 4. So when it's a 22, that's a 4 is all about working, structure, discipline. A 22-4 is a life of building a legacy. That's what that 22 means. So for me, when I got that name, actually, I wasn't into numerology at the time. When I got that name, I didn't know what it meant. But the more I've studied it, the more I thought, you have something to do here. That's why I wrote my books. I have a legacy to leave. That's why I do readings for people, why I do workshops, why I'm doing this is my legacy.
So, how do we know that the numbers are dictating the legacy, or we're reading the legacy in the numbers and going along with it?
Oh, great question. I think it's both. Because sometimes, okay, for instance, again, this is a 9 year, so I know that things are going to complete. I know there's things, and people have left. I've lost a couple of people in my life this 9 year. It feels like it's the end of things, and it's also a reward year. The years, these last 9 years, things that I've done my work, I've done my spiritual growth. Then there'll be rewards that are coming to me. So I'm prepared for those, if you will, and welcoming those. But also, it the numbers influence what I choose to do. Now, personal year last year, or the universal year last year, was an 8 year. So 2 plus 2 plus 4, 8. What that means is eight's all about business, entrepreneurship, money, management, being an organization, being an authority. And that was the last year was the year I launched my online business. I launched my wisdom and numerology business. So
Well, but what confuses me, Susan, if you
okay,
will,
okay,
is
yeah.
is that we kind of have an arbitrary year. I mean, it's purportedly based on when Christ was born.
Mhm.
But we don't know when Christ was born. So, just a shift of a month or a shift of a day sounds like it would make a huge difference. And yet we're basing everything on the year. How does that work out?
Well, it's not just the year either. See, so because you have the year influences the month, and this is in my superpowers book. I talk about the whatever the year is, what goes on in the full year. Then I break it down into the months. So July, this month of July is a 7 month for people in a 9 year. It's different. And in that 7 month, I know this is a spiritual time for me. This is time for me to do research and really go inward. Okay. So that it gets, and then even you can get it down even more detailed to the day. For instance, this today is a 6 day. This is kind of a day to enjoy and have a good time, and home and family day. So and believe it or not, I'm taking care of my grandkids today. So there's always something. And on an 8 day, I know I'm either going to get money or I'm going to write a check. Usually it's write a check. But anyway, do you know what I'm saying? It's like every number, there's some kind of influence that day in my life. And maybe it's because I'm hyper attentive to numerology, but I can tell you it really works. It's given me a format to run my life. Like next year's new beginnings. What am I going to do next year? What am I going to set out for
Which
my next
which
nine
brings me
years?
to my which brings me to my next question is, it's pretty obvious that we're, everybody's talking about the end of days, et cetera, but we are in a huge transition. What do the numbers say about that? You said it's the endings, and we can see endings going on around us, but is it more than just year to year that we're looking at? And can you read that in the numbers?
Well, okay, this is interesting, and I hope I can explain it to you because what I've gotten into some more research, and what I've discovered is that not only do we run on a 9-year cycle every 9 years, but with every 9 years is included in another cycle. So like the first 9 years of your life, that's your first cycle. So it's all new beginnings in your first cycle of 9 years. Okay. And then the second cycle, it's about communication and relationship with other people. That's a 2. So that's the second phase of our lives, the second phase of 9 years. So I'm currently now, this is so incredible. I am the end of my 8th phase of 9 years. Now, this is really complicated, but it makes sense to me. And here I am. I've started in this last 9 years. I've started a business. I've written books. I've done all of this stuff in my 8th year. And I didn't do it because or in my 8th phase. I didn't do it because it was in the 8th phase. It just lined up to work out that way. And here I am in my 8th phase. So next year, new beginnings, I start my 9th phase of 9 years cycles. So
So
if
that
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 makes sense, go ahead.
Well, you explain personally, okay, and we'll probably have to pick up this on the other side of a commercial break. But you explained how it works personally. Personally, I was trying to figure out
Mhm.
how it applies globally and the patterns that we are going through on a global basis, and also across the ages versus just year to year.
Mm, okay. Well, that's an interesting concept because universally, this is a 9 year, but everybody has a personal year. So, for instance, you're in a 6 personal year. And the way we calculate that is that we add your birth month and your birthday to the current year.
Hmm.
So that gives you a personal year. Now, interesting. I have not calculated, that's an interesting concept to calculate what year the United States is in, for instance, from the beginning to where we are today and what cycle we're in all of that. But as far as a planet goes, it I focus on whatever the year is. And again, things are shifting. You said it yourself. We're in transition, and nine is a very transitional year because again, endings and new beginnings. So we're kind of finding ourselves in the middle of all that.
It's a wild ride. Well,
Mhm.
it is that wonderful moment when we do need to take a station break. Susan and I will return very shortly to continue to play with numbers, so don't go away. This is Mission Evolution, www.missionevolution.org. Does numerology really work? And if so, how? With us this hour discussing the ancient art of numerology is Suzan Owens, the author of Know Your Superpowers, Know Your Future. Her website, wisdomofnumerology.com. So, Susan, I'm still kind of unclear. It's like numbers seem to be kind of like randomly applied, except, I mean, the overall numbers. We know what our birthday is, but what dictated the dates and the time originally could, like I said before, just one little shift in the year Christ was born, and all of a sudden we've got a whole different enchilada. What? How does that factor in? I'm just not clear on that. How does that factor in?
Well, the way I look at this, okay, is that, like I said, we start our life paths. That's the biggest number that we get in our. It's a big number out of numerology, and we get that by adding our birth date together. And you keep adding the numbers together until you get one digit, or if there's a master number, like I said earlier, 2 digits of the same number, then that's your life path. Now, I haven't done a lot of research on the history of all of that. For me, this is what's important to me in this time is how does this influence you? How does this influence what's your life path? What are your superpowers? And for to understand, I wish I'd understood them when I was a kid, to understand that, gosh, I am a writer, I am a communicator. And to know that as a younger person, to be able to utilize those gifts and really build those gifts up before I was in my 30s or 40s would have been beneficial. And that's how I look at this. So as a three, you and I, like I said, you're a communicator. That clearly is what you're destined to do. And you're clearly good at it because your platform is amazing. So the other thing, you didn't always start out that way. I mean, as a child, I think from looking at your birth date, for instance, you may have learned to be the moderator and you're a very intuitive kid, I can tell that. And you're an old soul as well. I can tell you that too, Gwilda, that you've been around before. And I think there's something about that interests you in the historical part of this. And it's like, okay, we're coming around again. What's happening? Where are we going? What's the future hold? Now that for me is pretty much intuitive. And I
So if let's say, for instance, I want to go back to this because I'm trying to make sense of it. Let's
okay,
say, for instance, that they actually had Christ's birthday off by 2 days. So that changes the number of the year that you were born by 2 days. How
okay,
would that change the master number?
okay. So if I'm calculating those numbers correctly, the that your birth year would change, or your birthday would change. Is that what you're saying? That
Well, I'm saying certainly your birth year would, if it was 2 years that he was we were missing the mark, if you will.
right, right.
And it's an arbitrary figure. That's what's got me stumped here.
Oh, I see. Well, gosh, it's interesting to talk about that because for me, what I know about numerology is I know that it works this way. And if you want to change those numbers and look at a different aspect of yourself, that maybe that applies to you. Maybe that history and that research really is important to you to get into that. For me, it's irrelevant. To me, it's
Well,
like, this is what happens, this is where we are, this is where we go. Is that uh,
I understand. I'm following.
okay?
But I think the point I was trying to get to is, there when Pluto was discovered, it changed the whole chart. Okay, and I asked a very famous and very good astrologer. I said, "Okay, it's always been there. Why did it change the whole chart?" And he says, "Because it was not in the psyche of the masses at the time."
It's
And I
true.
was wondering if the same thing applied. I mean, we're all in agreement. That's this what year this is, but it's absolutely arbitrary. We don't know. And what
Mhm.
happens if all of a sudden, we unearth something that says, "Oh, actually, the year was wrong"? Does that change everything, or do we stick with what we have now?
Okay, now this would be strictly my own opinion, that I think it would shift things. It would
Mm.
absolutely shift things. Like you said, there's a new understanding, and I'm getting, like I explained a little bit about what my own little theory was about numerology and the phases. So there's new information all the time that's coming that can shift things, and I think more for me it enhances it. And if anything that I've any of the research that I've done, anything that comes into it, it gives me more of a foundation of how to understand it. Not that it changes it, it more enhances it. Now, if we look at what you're asking, if we look at a shift in numbers, I'm going to say that there's going to be a new enlightenment with that there will be another way to look at this, at numerology, that doesn't erase what we know, because Pluto didn't erase things. Pluto gave us an enhancement, right? Gave us some more information. And that would be my thought, is that any information that we get is going to be more. I don't know, that wondering if we had the right beginning. Would that be the right? Does that work for us right now? what I know works. Let me just put
Mhm.
it that way. You know what
So
I
are there,
mean?
speaking of which, are there any studies that prove the effectiveness of numerology?
I don't know of any. I just know that my experience works, and when I've done thousands of readings, and I can tell you that the one I give information to people, and more than once, more than many times, I've been told this. You're right on. How do you know
You
that?
get 'em.
What?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Right. So
So
let, let's talk a little bit about numerology as a divinational tool.
okay.
I understand it can be one. How does that work?
Mhm. Well, it is divine. In my opinion, it is divine, and it for me, it's a spiritual path that I follow because it is numerology. Were you going to say something?
Yeah, by divinational, I don't mean divine. I mean foretelling.
Uh, okay. So the way I look at that, I know next year's a 1 year. I know there's going to be new beginnings, and part of that divination is because I've lived a number of 1 years. I look back over my life, and I'll look back and I'll look at that and I'll say, oh, that's what I did in a 1 year. Well, that was that it. There's a number, one specific number that is in most charts. Not everyone has one, and in particular, this number when it shows up the first time it appeared in my chart, I was 21 and I was in a car wreck that almost killed me. The second time it appeared, it was my mother passed away. The third time, my father passed away. So if I know that that's going to be a life lesson coming, it's not that that's going to be foretelling horrible things. What it means is it may be challenging, but there will be a life lesson learned, that there
It's
will be
like to say,
growth happening.
it's like to say, duck.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
pretty much.
So
But yeah, a lot of growth, that's for sure.
So now I know when you're working with astrology, the planets are where they are, right? I mean, they're doing what they're doing, and it's all based on where they are in the where we are in the galaxy and where the planets are in our solar system at any given time. But the thing that comes with that is that these just set currents; they don't dictate behavior. Is it the same with numerology?
Exactly. You have free will. We have free will. I've seen charts where people just aren't living their chart. I see the gifts, I see the understanding that they could have, and they've totally chosen out of it. So we have free will. You absolutely have free will. The master number again. If you're a 22, and you don't feel that energy that feels like pressure to be able to leave a legacy, then you become a four. That four energy becomes more important, and you're a worker bee. A four is somebody that really enjoys routine, structure, discipline, and that's their work. That's their life.
So what
So
do you see?
absolutely.
What do you see as the limitations of numerology?
Mm, good question. I love it. For me, there aren't any because I can see, oh, there's a potential right there. There's again with a 9 year or even any year, there's one end of the spectrum to the other. I know there's going to be completions. I know there's going to be new beginnings. And for me, this year is a year to get rid of things. Cleaning out my metaphorical closet, my physical closet, that kind of thing. That's what this year is about. But it also means that there's things that are going to be coming into my life. What is it that I want to take into the next 9 year cycle? That's what this year is about for me.
So
But
by
it,
like
yeah,
getting rid of things and clearing the slate, it opens the door then for the next year when things will be coming in. Is that the thought?
absolutely, absolutely. Because for me, every 1 year, and every year I do this, but every 1 year of my 9 year cycle, I am really setting out what do I want to create in the next 9 years. And 9 years ago, I said I want to be a published author. And I wanted a business. I wanted all this, and I had no idea what it was going to be at that year. 9 years ago, I wasn't sure what I was doing. I wasn't writing books. I was studying numerology, but I wasn't writing books. So by the end of the cycle, there I have two published books and I have a business. So I'm excited to write my next year's. What do I want to create in the next 9 years?
So
So
can you when you sit down with playing with numbers, if you will,
mhm,
um,
yeah.
I know that, again, in astrology, sometimes if you try to go too far out, there are unforeseen things that will shift it. And so trying to go too far out can mislead you. Is it the same with numerology? And how does that work?
I absolutely. When I do a reading, I don't give uh, a lot of information about you or not. I wouldn't ever say but you know,
That's
oops.
like a surgeon saying, whoops. Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
no, right. No, I would never do that. I would say, it might be a little bit of a challenging time for sure. But no, I'll give them the next few years. And actually most of my astrologers have done the same thing that I've worked with. They'll just give me the few years that are coming up because yeah, things can change. There are things that can come in and shift, and that still may be the same number, right? But there's another higher influence that comes in and shifts it. So the perspective may be different even though you have the same numbers. So it's not ever just one number that we're looking at. There's many numbers. And there's a particular chart within your numerology chart. It's called the essence chart. And it's figured out, calculated by your birth name. And I have you calculated 1 to 99 years. And so this is where I was talking about that one number that showed up in particular times in my life that were challenging. And it also shows different phases in your life. And it's um, I want to say it's random in that there's not anything that's uniform. Sometimes you can have 5 years of the same number, sometimes you have 1 year of the same number. So
But you can
yeah,
tell it.
there's a lot of
You can tell ahead of time
yeah,
what's coming, right? Do you
right.
think that it's a person can change? So, and maybe that's the big change that we're trying to, not go too far forward so that the person has a chance to move forward on their own.
Well, that's true. And you've lived long enough. Do you understand that there's life cycles? There's big things happening. Well, the Saturn return at 28, 29 years old, that's a big shift. Usually, and I've seen there's a maturity that happens mid 30s.
Yeah, I'm
And
I'm
then
sorry. We're going to have to hit mid 30s on the other side of a station break. Susan and I will be right back to continue our discussion. So you stay right there. This is Mission Evolution, www.missionevolution.org. When is
when is
following the
fall?
numbers too much? This is Mission Evolution, missionevolution.org. With us discussing the effectiveness of numerology is Suzan Owens. Her website, wisdomofnumerology.com. And Susan, that's my next question. Can a person become overly reliant on numerology? I know with, omenology, you certainly can. Sometimes a raven sitting on a branch is just a raven sitting on a branch. You know what I'm trying to say? Trying to make meaning out of everything. Can a person lose their way by being too obsessive about numerology?
Gosh, you know what? I think with anything you can, if you get so absorbed in it that you can't see clearly where your path is. Absolutely, I think so. For me, it runs it runs as a format, a paradigm, if you will, that I can run my life. And some people get numerology down to the hour. It's like, well, okay, great, you do that. For me, that's a little bit more detailed. For me, it's okay, I know it's a 6 day, and not every day. I don't pay attention to every day. That's not because I know what you're saying. I absolutely, if you get obsessive compulsive about anything, it becomes a burden. It doesn't become a guidance piece or it doesn't become functional, is what I can see.
So, does numerology take
Overall,
into effect the possibility of past lives?
karma, absolutely. There are four karmic numbers, and actually, I there is one in your chart which says there's no easy way out. You have to do the work. Not that you were trying to skate away from anything, but there's that showed up in your chart, and it's very many of those. I can a lot. That's a real popular number. That 13 is, and then there's another karma that says structure. Not only that, structure is really important, and another number that says there's been a past life. I carry this one, a past life of abuse with my own spiritual power. So I have to clean that up in this lifetime. And it's not that it, it's it's not something that as a burden the rest of my life. It's an opportunity, and that's how I look at it. I don't play a lot of weight into karmic numbers unless there's a lot of them in your chart. Then there's going to be a lot of challenges. But for me, and truly, it's a 19-1 challenge, karmic debt. And I had a very challenging moment in my life that I was standing alone and facing whatever I needed to face on my own. And that's basically what that karmic debt was about. So yeah, past lives absolutely come into play with it.
Which brings me to my next question. Um, when we're in a past life, you can bet our birthday was different. When
Mm.
we're between lives, do we choose the numbers based on what we want to experience and clear and everything else?
Well, that's a good question because I know that we come into this lifetime with gifts, right? We come into this lifetime, I believe we choose our parents, we choose our experiences. So yes, I believe that, and I believe numerology is a part of that. That numerology will set up, if you will, give you the opportunity to heal past lives, to clean up things, learn through your own personal growth. I think there's a lot of those opportunities in when we come into this path and into this lifetime.
I, kn-
Absolutely.
I know we've touched in on it, but what is a life path number again?
Oh, that's our life path, and I call it superpowers. That's what it is in my book. But life path number is your birth date, and it's the gifts that you came in with. So, for instance, I told you, you and I are both threes. If you have a one life path, you're a leader, absolutely a leader. You've got new beginnings, you've got great ideas. If you add your birth date together and reduce all the numbers down to a two, that means that you are a diplomat, a mediator. You handle all kinds of problems that other people solve. You work well with people. A three, like I said, you and I are both threes, and we're communicators, clearly communicators, and creatives. Fours, they're the worker bees. They're the ones that like structure. They're the lawyers, the beauticians, all the way to the beauty people that like to do the same thing, enjoy doing the same thing every day. Fives are the promoters. They're the great salespeople. They're the adventurers in life. Six, they're the caregivers. They're the ones all about home and families. Very, very important to them. Seven, those are the researchers. They're the ones that go inward and they ask the big questions like, what's life about? What am I doing here? What's the universe have for me, or what is the universe telling me? Eight, those are the entrepreneurs, and those are the ones that um, are the businessmen, the organization. They are managers, excellent managers, and the nines are the humanitarians, they're the spiritual ones. So those are the life paths. Those nine are the major life paths, and then
Major
there's
life.
Mhm.
So what about, we come in with great ideas, probably, and choose, kind of like picking that place to jump into a jump rope that's being swung. We choose our date, and then that sets for that lifetime, like you said, the life path number.
Mhm.
But what about the damage we receive along the way? It's a bumpy ride here. Can it take us off our life path, and regardless of the numbers?
I wonder. I do. I agree with that. I think if you can get sidetracked, again, we have free will, and I believe it's all part of the spiritual path in this lifetime. I truly believe that we are spiritual beings having a physical experience, and it's really all about soul growth. That's for me. That's my total belief. This is all about um, expanding my own soul and my own spirit. And what can I learn in this school we call Earth, this Earth plane, and that expands my understanding and my evolution, my own spiritual evolution.
So let's play a little bit with superpowers. How can you discover your superpower, and then how can you play with it? How can you
Well,
align with it?
isn't that interesting? Because I I did write as a kid. I did poetry. I did all kinds of things, but to know that that was a real gift of mine, and I knew I liked to talk. I always liked to talk. The thing that Okay, I'll tell you this. This is funny because everybody has. the shadow side or the challenging part of your number. So as a communicator, it's important to be able to express yourselves, and that's what we threes do. But the lowest form of that three is gossip, for instance, or talking, or just talking to hear yourself talk. So there's that kind of that's all part of each one of the numbers. So
So
there's a
by
whole
lowest
process.
by lowest form, do you mean where we tend to go when we're damaged and unprocessed?
I think so. I used to love the gossip and the drama when I was younger. And now I don't have time for it. But I remember really, really getting into it. It was really important to me. And I thought, again, with the growth and the understanding, now we've moved out of that. So, and every number has whatever that is. The fours can get way too structured. The ones can be leaders, but micromanagers. There's all kinds of everyone has the I want to say the dark and the light, but you know what I'm saying is that, like, there's challenges on every number.
So
So,
as we go through life,
mhm.
if we aren't moving, if we aren't evolving, we tend to kind of devolve and not move through our damage, not move through
Mhm.
our issues. Is that when we kind of default back to the shadow side of our number?
I think so. I can see that happening. I think that you can see the negative pieces of things. I have a dear friend that is a 33-6. She's a master number caregiver. And what she's found, instead of being someone that really could care for the masses, she is a caregiver, but she's also kind of a martyr. She's taken on some of the challenges with that particular six number, the and the codependency part of it. So I see that in people, that if you're not, the more work you do, and I'm talking spiritual growth here. That's all I'm talking about, is the higher vibration that you get with the numbers that come to you. Again, every time I learn something new with numerology, it I want to say it elevates me in a different way, and if different understanding, and that's, I think that's with everything. You have a new perspective and a sort of an enlightenment, if you will.
Well, we're coming into a
Okay.
time where flexibility is a huge key and a huge necessity. Do you see a time coming, or is it here already, when we can pick and choose which numbers, not even our own, that we resonate with to accomplish what we want to accomplish?
Okay, so that's a wonderful question again. So in numerology, isn't just our chart isn't just two numbers. There's many, many numbers that make up a chart. There's ma- uh, five core numbers: our life path, our destiny that comes from our name, and then we have our soul number that comes from the vowels in our name. The consonants create our personality. And then the maturity number is adding both the life path and the destiny together. Okay, so those are five pretty serious numbers. They make up a big part of our chart. My particular soul number, or my inner me number, is a three. Also, it's a very communicative number. I'm creative and all that. Now the seven is my personality number. So the seven is pretty much an introvert, someone that doesn't like to get out and do all those things, that likes to do the research, just leave me alone, let me read a book kind of person. Okay.
So, are you
So
saying that we have all these numbers within our chart, if you will,
mhm,
um,
mhm,
that we can dance any one of them,
exactly.
given the
Sometimes,
expediency of the situation? Can we
absolutely.
reach outside of our chart and pull in traits, from other numbers, from other combinations?
That I would not believe you could do. Now, I think that might be the limiting thing. If you want to be more of an eight, more of an entrepreneur, then draw on some aspects of other numbers that maybe can create that for you. It depends on what you really want. But I see. For me, I pretty much know what my chart says, and from all aspects of it. But again, the more research, the more things I learn, then I get a different perspective, another enlightenment moment. But to pull out from other numbers. I've never wanted to do that. I look at what the numbers are and I see what those are, and that gives me a pretty good perspective of a life and a life path for someone. Uh, so I'm not sure why you would want to go outside. So, if, for instance, if you were a two, and two is a very intuitive number, also, for instance, and if you wanted to be, they're also great supporters. They're not really what you would call leaders, but maybe you wanted to start a business. Okay, then and you didn't have any eights in your name or in your chart. I'd have to start looking at maybe a four would work with you, because then that would give you the structure to do that. And certainly, if you were going to start a business, I would use your life path number skills. So twos would be a diplomat. If you want to be a business person, then maybe you're a moderator, maybe you are a therapist, that kind of thing.
Well,
So
it's time for us to take another station break. Please stay with us as Susan and I continue to explore the hidden mysteries of numbers. This is Mission Evolution, www.missionevolution.org. Are you stuck to the darn thing? This is Mission Evolution, missionevolution.org. We're continuing our discussion with Suzan Owens. Her website, wisdomofnumerology.com. Susan, do you see where people that may or may not know about numerology, may or may not be into personal growth and development, kind of get stuck with one expression from their chart and don't branch out?
I'm thinking of people that I know personally that aren't really into it. I would say, truthfully, there's so many numbers that make up a chart. Mm, no, I think that they can play with another number. They can act out another number that maybe not be one of their primary numbers, or it also can be the shadow numbers. So it a shadow, I don't like that word, but you know what I'm saying, the more challenging side of a number. So I think there's so many different ways to look at a chart, and there's so much that goes into it. It isn't, I don't feel like I'm boxed in. Now, again, if you're a four, you like being boxed in. So that might be something that you want to consider. You just do your own thing. You don't change. You just you like your work the way it is. You like your life the way it is. And that's the characteristic of a four, that there's
So,
not open.
so
So,
let's talk about families and family orders and that sort of thing. One of the things that goes on in a family we're all aware of is all the children try to find their shtick, their spot, their thing that makes them special. And do they automatically choose from their chart to do that? And of course, if somebody else has taken that spot, do they pick another part of their chart to do that?
it's interesting. I have in my family, I've done everybody's chart, of course, because I know this, but the kids aren't into it yet. I mean, I'm not sure that they ever will be. So I'm witnessing what their choices are right now, because we don't talk about numerology that much. I do with not with my a lot of my members of my family. So I just witness it. I just watch them, and I can see that their gifts are absolutely what their life path is, that's where their strengths are, and even choosing where to go and what they're wanting to study in college, for instance, it fits right in with what their life path is. So, and they don't even know numerology. So it's just the way that it's like this is what they're choosing to do. So, and again, that was kind of like my experience. It was a natural part of who I was, uh, am. And there's numbers that don't appear in your chart, and when they don't appear, that means that you have some learning to do with regard to that particular number. So at
How
one point,
common is that? How
very,
common
not
is it?
very, yeah,
So what isn't there gives you an idea of what needs to be.
what you get to learn about, right? For instance, six is not in my chart. Well, that's a home and family number. So I got to learn about what it meant to be a parent, be a caregiver, and do all those things that come with that, right? To have a family and what all that is. And I look back on that and I go, yeah, that I can see where maybe I didn't take it as serious as I would have because I didn't have a 6 in my chart. And that's the thing. It's also kind of the reverse. It's like, well, you don't have that. You don't have an 8. That might be interesting for you to say maybe you're not into business. And an 8 also means either you're really good at money or you are not good at money. And what that means is I know every 8 that I've ever met is like this. Again, either really good with it or you're not. And that life will bring you life lessons so that you learn about money. And some people can, some people do, and some people don't. So
So
that
when a person's not living their chart, okay, and I'm sure that's probably quite any of us at any given time is not true to our nature, right? Because of
Mhm, mhm.
situations around us. When a person is not living their chart, what's the result of that? What does it feel like? What's the correction?
Well, you know what? They probably don't even know because it's just they're experiencing their life in their structure. That's how I look at it. Again, I'm thinking of people I know that are chosen out of numerology altogether. They don't even want to know about it. They don't want to know anything about whatever their life is. And this one particular person I'm thinking of has a lot of trauma as a child and hasn't dealt with any of it. Well, you can see that anybody like that, that if they haven't done their growth work, their personal growth work, then they're going to pretty much stay in the level that they want, that they are. And that's going to be the way it is for them. So I, I don't know that numerology has anything to do with that. Do you know what I mean? It's not because of numerology or not because of numerology that they're, I don't want to say stuck, but fitting into this particular path that isn't of one of personal growth. Does that make sense?
Well, yeah, I think the point I was trying to make is what symptoms or signs can a person start to recognize that they're indeed living somebody else's expectations, but not their true number? What does that feel like? What does that look like? What happens in your life when that's going on?
Oh gosh, you know what, Gwilda, that's an interesting question because I don't even look at it like that. I look at life, it's my life, and this is how I see my life. I've always been into personal growth. That's a 3 also. That and the 7, that there's always been interest um, in progress, in promoting in personal introspection and understanding in a higher level. It's always been really interesting to me with other people and some very close to me. That's not a thing. That is absolutely not a priority. It's business, for instance, is a priority. That's the difference. So
So, so if we have a lot of tools out there at this point. We've been talking about astrology, and there's numerology, and then there's um, the you read from a person what where their family birth order. There's all sorts of tools out there. What makes numerology special? What makes it? Why do you see it as being more powerful than any of the others, or do you?
well, for me, it resonated with me, and from day one, like I told you, the first time I read a book, I was like, "Oh, oh, that fits. Oh my gosh, I'm a 3. Oh my gosh," and everything that I've read, very little of it, maybe a page or two. I thought, well, I don't know where you got that. So that's been really important in regards to it. Again, it resonates with me, and it was easy. I didn't have to pay attention where the planets were or any of that, which I totally respect astrology. Don't get me wrong. But for me, it was numbers, and I never was that great in math in school. And it's not about math; it's just adding and subtraction. It's not a big mathematician kind of experience. Plus, I think it's also when we started this whole conversation about it's an ancient wisdom, so that it's come through the years, and and again, it's something that has just really rang true to me. So that's how I look at my life, and it's how I look at others' lives as well. It's like, oh, okay, you're a 4. Well, I'm pretty sure we're gonna fours. I struggle with a little bit of fours because they are very structured, and I have a challenge with the fours because I'm not a particularly structured person. I'm more creative, but and you know this,
Do you
that
do
you
you
have to be structured too.
do you find that there are certain numbers, master numbers or whatever, that really work together well as a team? And within that, do they start to adjust which part of their chart they're expressing in order to do so?
Absolutely, because I look at, for instance, 1, I told you, are leaders. 2 are the supporters. They're the ones that like to stay in the back of the room and cheer on the ones. So ones and twos go really, really well together. And threes also, you need the creatives to express, to give some more ideas into that leadership piece. You need the workers. That's a 4. So I think when you're all working together, uh, and you're resonating with your own numbers, that's when a team can work. I mean, if you get all 9 numbers on a team and they're all doing their thing, I'll tell you, it's success, absolute success. I can see it in every aspect.
Sounds like magic could happen if that's the case.
You know, doesn't it? Yeah.
Yeah. So, how do you see numerology aiding spiritual evolution of humankind at this time? We could use a little evolution here.
I've been hoping because here's a funny. I've been hoping to get numerology out on the mainstream more than it has been. There's numerology used to be big in the 30s and the 40s and even in the 50s. I love Lucille Ball started one of her shows reading a book on numerology, and Ricky comes in and he says, "Oh, Lucy, you've just always reading something like that. Last month it was astrology." She said, "No, no, Ricky, this is the best one." So, and then I've seen numbers in movies where they're talking about numerology. And so it used to be more in the mainstream. And I'd like to see it come back into the mainstream more. That I think the young people are really interested in it now. It seems like I've noticed a little bit more interest coming in the millennials, and the younger people are interested in what this has to offer.
So, how does numbers, like, say, for instance, I wake up, it's 3:33 in the morning again. Is that telling me something?
Well, they call them angel numbers or magic numbers. Yes, I love those numbers. Now that 333, I think that there's a couple of ones because I've studied that because I get 333, 444, 555. I get a lot of those all the time. And the 3 is, it may be your blood sugar's low. It's also a spiritual time is a 3 o'clock time. And the 3 is a very creative number. So there's they say the angel, call it an angel number. So it's a time, if you get to stay awake, maybe there's a dream coming to you that gives you some creativity or something.
So, pay attention to them. We're
Absolutely.
just about out of time, and I would be remiss, Susan, if I didn't ask you, what's your mission?
Well, I really do want to get this out in the mainstream. I love numerology, and it's really added an incredible aspect, a direction in my life. And I'd like to be able to do that for other people. I hope it would do that for other people. I maybe another book, I don't know, but I love what I know. I love how it works with my life, and I love helping people. And to do a reading for someone and giving them guidance. People come to me all the time when they're in a transitional period. Either their marriage isn't coming together, or they are getting married, or there's a time in their life when they've got choices to make. It's a perfect time to do a numerology reading, and I love doing them and giving people some insight about who they are, what they came in to be, giving them another perspective on
Well,
on
that's
their
we
life.
could always use more perspectives. Susan, unfortunately, we are out of time. Thank you so much for coming on the show.
I had so much fun. Thank you, Gwilda. I loved it.
Our guest this hour has been Susan Owens. Susan is a numerologist and the author of Know Your Superpowers, Know Your Future. To find out more about Susan, where you can find her book and all she has to offer, visit her website, wisdomofnumerology.com. This has been Mission Evolution with Gwilda Wiyaka. For more information or to enjoy past archived episodes, visit www.missionevolution.org. But please, Be sure to join us again right here on the X Zone TV channel, xztv.ca, where this mission will continue, bringing information, resources, and support to a rapidly evolving world.